we have no relation to Alan Lindquist, and the claiming that he coached Birgit Nilsson in 1938 is also not right, and so I've told David Jones that that's not right. But overall, this time giving yourself credibility or authority by talking about who you have studied with, or and other people studied with that person, or that really doesn't say anything about anyone as a teacher. It's not in my book.
Right?
He was approaching 90 years of age, but here was this great man who had studied with Enrico Caruso and all the great teachers of the Italian school. He had also studied with UC Bierling's teacher and one of Kirsten Flogstadt's teachers. So there was a very, very long lineage behind this training called the Swedish-Italian school, which is really a mixture of Italian concepts and some of the open-throated vowels of the Swedish language combined.
Did you ever discuss these problems with David Jones, with the information that was being presented, or give him any sources?
The first thing I said was that I never heard about this NG position. I wondered what it could be. That was the first thing I said when I met him. Then I said quite early that about what you call it, genealogy. The family. That this is totally a mix-up. And I said, then I was very kind, and I said, perhaps Alan Lindquist was very old. I understand when David Jones met him, that he was senile or something like that, pre-senile, because he has really twisted it around. It's a lot of this is not the fact. And then the answer was, that might be, but he didn't have any errors about the technique. And then when I read this study from the Corpus Christi University in Texas, I also made and said that I'm in shock, because this has nothing to do with what was being said to singers in Sweden 100 years ago and more. And then the answer was, well, he didn't teach me like that. I also once asked about, because I know that David Jones, he said he knew someone in England who had the exercises of Joseph Hislop, but apparently he wasn't interested in finding out which they were. So, but if I go to this, the book, this is the book of Dr. Blatt. I've only got it on the copy, because it's a cheating copy. You weren't allowed to do it, but I did anyhow. And if you look in the Bullemuno, this book, and in the Lange book, that was the most important sources for him, there are totally other types of exercises than is done in the so-called Swedish American school. It might be hard. It is hard for me to develop this, because I found it interesting from the beginning, and Mr. Jones is a very social person, and I also felt sort of put into a club, we that know, so to speak. Elite, that feels right. It feels good, and it's difficult to stay away from it, even if you understand that this is some fishy thing. But I fed the information by and the more information I fed them, and the more little harder I've been on telling them. We have sort of drifted apart. And for instance, when I told him that this about using Birgit Nilsson as an example of someone being coached by Alan Lindquist, that it wasn't true, he just said, I don't care. First of all, Alan Lindquist doesn't lie because he's religious, very religious man. So he must have been very seductive, anyhow. And then he said that I don't care if it's true.
I contacted Mr. Jones and asked him about the documentation for it, and I was told that I wouldn't be able to decipher it because it's in Old Swedish.
It's not in Old Swedish. Let me see. This one actually is the Lange book is in Danish because you can't buy it in Sweden anymore. He moved to Denmark in the end of his life. But for a Swede, Danish is easy to read. Much more easy than to read. It's easy. The book of, let's see the book of Dr. Blatt. Just go 40 years ago, they don't spoke exactly the way we do now. But there's absolutely no difficulty in reading this. Anyone who knows Swedish can read this. Anyone who knows Swedish, Danish, or Norwegian can read this. It's not, and there's a much bigger difference to Norwegian or to Danish from modern Swedish than to Swedish 100 years ago and to modern Swedish. It's absolutely not difficult to read. I sent copies of 3 of the books. The Alberg book, the Blatt book, and the Leif Lundberg book, which is not that good because he died before he had finished writing it, so it was sketches. I sent copies of it to Mr. Jones and said that you can find someone who can translate it into English. Anyone who knows Swedish in New York. But it has apparently not been done. All credibility has been put in the tellings of Alan Lindquist. And there's no checkup from other sources at all. And I can't tell if Alan Lindquist was a mythoman or if he was just old and didn't remember from which sources what came. And I also know that Mr. Jones studied for a very short time with him. And I don't say that there are not other ways of teaching, but they can also be successful. This was a school during its time that was mostly of all made for developing singers that had the potential to become dramatic singers. Also in Sweden, the people with more lyrical voices did not study with Dr. Blatt and this type of because they didn't. This increased compression and pressure put on fixing the relation between consonant and vowel, the language and the sound, so to speak, that wasn't what they needed. First of all, if they were to sing Baroque music or bel canto music, you see. They went to other teachers. That was couple of them that were quite well known also. It was a good school for doing that. And if you want to develop dramatic singers, there are of course other ways that you can do it. But if you claim that it comes from this school, you should do what they did. Then you should do what Dr. Blatt did. And you shouldn't, at least not say that he did things that he did not, because you have turned it around and not understood what it really was. Why it has been twisted around and mixed up I don't understand. It's the same with the claiming on just singing on sensations and not on listening. That's not very Swedish and it's not very Italian either, because for these people, and I know this because I interviewed this Dagmar Gustafsson, who was the best of the teachers that I studied with Dr. Blatt, and she taught that's many years ago. She was very old. It was very, very important to imagine your sound. When you have done a sound a couple of times, you have to remember how it was, so you can repeat it without looking for it. How are you otherwise going to transfer your technique to the repertoire? You can't do a humming or a favorite vowel before you start singing the text, which means you will have to train the ability to listen to to imagine your own sound. To have the sensational feeling of the inhalation here, and connect the intellect to listen to which sound you're going to connect the words to. was very, very important, and to do it before the vocal cords closed. Hello, 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 hello. Emotion, intellect, connect to imagining the sound. And this was actually quite modern because it connects to the vagus nerve, you know, the one that this one nerve that's between voluntary and not voluntary. And it tends to connect the instrument, and which means you can connect before the sound, you start the sound. And it was very important to do it. The preparation and the start of the sound was what they called tone building the tone. Then came singing technique. That was exercises for being able to execute the music you were going to do. So we're going to sing syllabic music. You trained a lot of exercises that connected consonants and vowels. And if you're going to sing Rossini, you train a lot of coloraturas upside down because you'll be able to perform that automatically when you meet in the music. So, and also one of the most famous Italian singing teachers was Cotogni, the favorite baritone of Verdi. The teacher of the singers like Mario Basiola, the baritone, and Lauri Volpi, the tenor. And through his assistant, Rosati Gilgi. In Cotogni's teaching, it was very, very important to learn to imagine your sound in the head. Listen for your sound in the head before the vocal cords, when they're still open as you continue to inhale. And for pitch also. But that was also a part of get the perfect onset. To have listen for the pitch in advance and listen for the words hear them in advance, because this would know how to do before you start it, and this will know what to do. The singer can go. They concentrate on the upbeat and not on the downbeat. You understand what I mean with that?
I often have to tell the conductors I need the upbeat, not so much the downbeat, because everything is decided already.
Yeah. Most is decided before you start the sound, so to speak.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the part of that is learning to listen to your sound in advance, and then when you do it, you can check if it becomes what you imagined. You don't have to. What's not so good, that's to try to evaluate it, because then you stop being ahead in the head for the next sound you're going to do. We can't really be in three places, but in two we can be. So also in this point, what's preached in America is against this school. I mean, for me, they can do whatever they like, and I'm not especially patriotic. They can, but if you claim that ideas originate in the successful national singing school that also had based on the Swedish language, but of course with influences from different Italian sources and from different German sources, then you should do what they did and not do something else. Then you should call yourself a more modern American school, because that's what it is. It's an American school founded around the Second World War. I'm very sorry to have to say this. I didn't want to do it. Sort of be lying low on this for some time, until now when it's sort of being a big thing that I'm used for legitimating things that I'm not legitimating. I don't want that. I have no interest in this at all, because I'm retiring anyhow. I'm not. Yeah. I never had a Facebook page. I never had a home page. The only things that have come to me have come by word of mouth, because rumors have spread, so to speak. I've been privileged when we comes to working with voices, because since I've had my full-time job at the Opera House for most of my life, and working then far too much, I have the privilege to work with interesting singers. You know, a little like Marcello del Monaco, the brother of Mario del Monaco. He was a poet and a headmaster of school for children. And then on evenings and on weekends, he educated tenors. Martinucci, Giacomini, the Finnish tenor, very good one, Peter Lindroth, and several others. But I think that's also why I have another view on being a teacher, because there we have also disagreed, Mr. Jones and I, that I don't want singers I work with to call me their teacher. I want them to call me their vocal consultant or their coach. I don't like when there's an unhealthy bond between the teacher and the student. And it's better that the singer in the end feels that the singer, he or herself, I really found most of this out myself, than that someone has been teaching me to do this. I know I give them a lot of knowledge and I teach them and they have great confidence in me. It's not that. But I don't want that type of, I don't think that has a relationship between the teacher and the student. I mean, if they don't want to come back the next day, it's fine with me. I don't, and if they don't need to come back at all, then that's a success. Of course, I think mentioned. Yeah, but also that was one of the things that David Johnson started me to drift apart. I've never really told him this, and perhaps I should have done it. But there was a lot of bad talking about other teachers. That and that can't teach, and then there he can't teach, she can't teach, he can't teach, she can't teach, he's a catastrophe, he's a catastrophe. Even considering a couple of his own students that with home pages that claim belonging to this school. I won't give the names, of course I won't, but there have been those kinds of sayings. And in the end, and on the other hand, when it came to me, it was I'm the only one in the world that is any meaning to talk to. All others are idiots, and that's of course very flattering. But in a while, I forgot. First of all, I know it's not true. Of course, it's not true. And secondly, what is said behind my back?